Hello! Today's Sunday. I've been on a kick of telling you what day it is. Don't know why. Today's Sunday. Today I spent some time going through some of the QuickBooks files of some of my clients. So my bookkeepers work on, they're not my bookkeepers, they're their own humans. The bookkeepers that work with me have their own clients that they work on, they have their own files that they're working on, and I like to jump into those files regularly just to take a little review, make sure everything's going well, see if I notice anything, not so much in terms of the work that's happening, but in terms of the business itself, so I can offer some suggestions and I can chat with clients about their numbers and their finances. And so today I spent some time doing that, and I thought, why don't I talk about this later in my live? How do you know if your bookkeeping's right? I think especially if you're not someone who has an accounting background, or you're not someone who enjoys learning about this kind of thing, it's important to still be able to tell if your books are right, or at least if they're in the ballpark of correct. So if you don't have accounting training, you're probably not going to be able to verify if every little piece of it is accurate, but that's okay. That's not your job. But you can sort of ballpark it. You can figure out if there's a few easy things you can do, I should say, to figure out if there's something wrong. So my first thing that I would do is I would just go and have a look at the feed that's coming into your bookkeeping software. If you're using an online software, it can be hooked to your bank account. And if that's the case, if you have your bank account connected to your software, then it's automatically pulling those transactions in for you at least every day, sometimes every hour, and you can update it basically whenever you want. So I would just go and have a look, see how many transactions are outstanding. If you only do a couple per month, maybe it's worth it to see how far back the list goes. So maybe you only have one or two, but maybe one or two is from like a few months ago. I don't know. That could just be a case of your bookkeeper has a question for you, but it could be the case where you might want to ask a question. Something else that I look for is I will take the bank statement, any bank statement, usually the most recent one, but any bank statement, and I will compare that to the same period in my QuickBooks file. So run a balance sheet, and I will click on the numbers for that account. So maybe you run a balance sheet and you have like my TD business account, and then there'll be a number that tells you what the balance is in your TD business account, and you click on that. And it shows you all of the transactions that are actually in that account. And you can use that. You can either sort of do a spot check and see, most of these are on my list, or you can just look at the balance sheet and just look at the number that you have in your statement and compare it to your balance sheet. It should be the same, or it should be very close. Sometimes it's not the same because maybe you've written a check that hasn't cleared yet, or sometimes there are timing differences between QuickBooks and the bank, but it should be very close. And if it's not the same, your bookkeeper should be able to tell you what the difference is between your statement and what's in your QuickBooks file. Something else to have a look at is your accounts payable and accounts receivable. So accounts payable are the bills that you owe. So some small businesses don't bother entering bills before they pay them, just because mostly they pay them as they come in. Think about if you were paying for gas, or you're paying for something in a store, you pay as you receive the bill. It all happens in the same place. So you wouldn't enter a bill in that case. But sometimes you receive bills from larger suppliers and they come in, and you want to record those in the QuickBooks file. So you can go and look at your last supplier statement, or some suppliers allow you to log in and see what your account is at, how much is owed, and you can compare that to the balance sheet in your QuickBooks file. So it's that same balance sheet that we ran before. You go into reports, click balance sheet. It should be like the second one down. There's like a little favorites box there. And just compare that number to your accounts you have to get your specific accounts payable. There's an accounts payable summary. Sorry, there's an accounts payable summary in that listing. You go to reports and you got to scroll down a little bit. Accounts payable summary, and you can compare your specific vendors. You'll have a listing of your vendors, and it'll compare. You'll be able to compare the amount that's outstanding in QuickBooks with the amount that your vendor says that you owe them, which is an excellent number to compare, because if your books say something different, then that's a question that you want to ask your bookkeeper or maybe your vendor. Maybe they've got something recorded differently than you do. Maybe there's a payment missed or something. Anyways, it's a question to ask about why that doesn't match your suppliers. And accounts receivable is something that I like to go and look at as well. Accounts receivable is the amount that your customers owe you. And usually as small business owners, we have a really good idea of who's paid us and who hasn't. And so if we run the accounts receivable aging summary, which is sort of the other side of the coin to the accounts payable summary, and so you'll find that in reports as well. But if you run that accounts receivable aging summary, then have a look at that and just see if there's anything outstanding there that shouldn't be, or if you know somebody hasn't paid you but you don't see them on the list. Those are really good numbers to be looking at, because they are usually the shortest cycle in terms of something gets posted and then it gets paid. So those cycles are usually a lot faster than some of the other ones that are in your books. Those three things are something that you can look at in your books to just see, is your bookkeeping right? Checking your third-party documents against your balance sheet is what an accountant's going to do at your year end to validate your balance sheet. So you can be doing that throughout the year. Bank statements, credit card statements, loan statements, the vendor statements that we were talking about earlier, that kind of thing. Anytime you get a statement from somebody, you can check it against your books and just see if there's a difference. And if there is, that's definitely a question that I would be asking either your accountant to help you figure out why that is, or your bookkeeper if they're doing that, or whoever sent you the document might be able to help too. If you have any questions for me about that, definitely put them in the comments for me. I would love to help you out. I've left the link to my free newsletter in the description. I send accounting and tax and bookkeeping tips just like this one out every week. So if you're interested in that, definitely sign up. I'll see you tomorrow.